Okay, if you're responding to a health emergency. Biological male, somebody with a penis, is having a medical emergency, and they say to you, "I think I'm having a miscarriage." Would you check them to see if they're having a miscarriage? Would you consider that a possibility for them?
No, but that's because some people don't have body parts.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Grab a seat because this one is a clinic. In this clip, Matt Walsh sits across from a transgender EMT and asks the one question the entire culture keeps tripping over. What actually is a woman? What starts as a calm back and forth about definitions turns into a real-world emergency room scenario that the other side did not see coming, and the answer it forces is the kind of moment that ends an argument cold. Stick around all the way through, because the strongest exchange isn't at the front, it builds, and the payoff near the finish is the part you'll want to rewind. And while you're here, drop a comment and let me know what part of the world you're watching from. I love seeing how far this channel reaches. Alright, enough from me, let's get into it.
How would you define a woman? Because you've asked other people up here to define how we would define a woman. How would you define a woman, Mr. Walsh?
An adult human female.
And how don't trans people, how doesn't a transgender woman fit that definition?
Female.
Because they're not female. They have, you said that you are a biological male, correct?
I said I'm transgender. I might be intersex for all we know. About almost as many people in the world are transgender as intersex, and
Well,
a lot of people don't know.
Well, but that's a different conversation. Intersex, that's a genetic anomaly, that's a medical condition. So that's a completely different conversation. That's also not a third gender. That's a genetic anomaly that occurs within the sex binary of male and female. So what you're saying is that a quote-unquote trans woman is a female?
By the definitions I'm familiar with, yes.
So how would you define female?
Biology?
Through my training in healthcare, there are several different categories for how we define sex. People bring up chromosomes. People also bring up hormone levels. People bring up all sorts of other categories. Lots of people don't fit neatly into a gender binary, even people we don't consider to be intersex. It's a complicated spectrum.
It's not complicated, but you also didn't define. So what is a woman? What is a female? What do these words mean?
It's complicated, and I know you're not going to like that answer, but that's because there are no simple answers in human biology.
Let me ask you a question.
You guys,
Can I ask you
well,
one last
hang
question?
on. Just let me finish. You guys like to bring up high school level biology classes a lot. I get that a lot, but people who go on to more complicated biology classes will talk about sex as a spectrum.
It's not. It's not.
Well, biological researchers would disagree with you.
Well, then they're full of shit, the ones that would say that. There are male gametes and female gametes. Oh, I had one last question.
This is the moment that tells you everything about how this whole thing is going to go. Matt Walsh gets handed the simplest question on the planet, and he answers it in 3 words. Matt Walsh said this: an adult human female. Done. No hesitation, no word salad, no running through a maze of categories to avoid landing anywhere. And the reason that matters so much is that the entire other side of this conversation is built on pretending the question is impossible to answer. You have to understand something here. When the EMT gets asked to define female, watch what actually happens. Instead of a definition, you get categories, you get chromosomes, you get hormone levels, and then you get the line the EMT said this: it's a complicated spectrum. And here's what people don't realize. Calling something complicated is not the same as answering it. It is the opposite of answering it. It is a way to never get pinned down, because the second you commit to a real definition, you can be tested on it. That is exactly what the EMT is trying to avoid. And the part that really gets me is the move on the scientists. Matt points out that biological researchers would push back on the spectrum claim And the EMT said this. Well, then they're full of it. Think about that response. When the experts disagree, the answer is just to insult the experts. Then Matt drops the cleanest fact in the room. Matt Walsh said this. There are male gametes and female gametes. That is foundational biology, and you cannot talk your way around it.
I just have one quick, can you come back for 1 second? Because this is an important question. You said you're an EMT.
Yes.
Okay, if you're responding to a health emergency. Biological male, somebody with a penis is having a medical emergency. And they say to you, I think I'm having a miscarriage. Would you check them to see if they're having a miscarriage? Would you consider that a possibility for them?
Look. No, but that's because some people don't have body parts. Doesn't mean they're not a woman.
Okay. Sounds like we've established there are some people who, in principle, can get pregnant, and there are some people who can't. So there's two categories, otherwise known as binary.
Lots of women can't get pregnant either.
Yeah, but they're still of the nature to get pregnant. The only
But
reason
they can't get pregnant.
Yes, but
truth matters, right?
it does. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
Truth matters, and they can't get pregnant. That's the truth. So how are they still women?
And here it is. This is the part that flips the entire conversation. And honestly, it's one of the smartest setups I've seen in a debate like this. Matt Walsh stops arguing about definitions completely and just asks a real-world question. He asks the EMT, who is an actual emergency responder, what they would do if a biological male came and convinced something was wrong with a pregnancy. Matt Walsh said this. Would you check them to see if they're having a miscarriage? And watch the answer. The EMT said this, no, one word. And that one word does more damage than any 10-minute speech ever could. Because for the last several minutes, the whole claim was that the categories are blurry, that nothing is clear, that it's all a spectrum. Then the instant a real medical situation is on the table, the EMT knows exactly which category that patient is in. You don't run that check on a biological male. Everybody knows that. Even the person arguing the opposite knows that, and they just admitted it out loud. That is the contradiction in one syllable. Then Matt closes the trap. Matt Walsh said this. There's two categories, otherwise known as binary, and the comeback is weak. The EMT said this. Lots of women can't get pregnant either. It sounds like a counter, but it rescues nothing, and Matt is about to show you precisely why that line backfires.
Because they are for the same reason that I can rightly say that human beings have two legs. And if a person is born with only one leg, that doesn't call into question the statement that human beings have two legs, okay? A person being born with one leg doesn't mean that now legs are on a spectrum and we can't say anything at all about how many legs a person has. Who knows? They could be a centipede. You know, they could have 100 legs. No, we know human beings have two legs. If a human is born without two legs, something went wrong. They were supposed to have that second leg. Something went wrong. If you meet a person on the street who only has one leg, maybe they had an accident. Maybe they were in war. Maybe something, maybe they were in a car accident. Maybe they had cancer. A leg was cut off. But you know that something went wrong because by their nature, they're supposed to have two legs. Same thing for a woman. A woman by her nature can get pregnant. A man by his nature never can. So if you meet a woman of childbearing age, say she's 28 years old, and she can't get pregnant, you know automatically that something has gone wrong. And she can go to the doctor and find out what that thing is, even if they can't fix it. So that proves that women by their nature can get pregnant, because the simple fact that she can't shows you that there's something wrong. This is what is known as the exception that proves the rule. Whereas if a male with a penis can't get pregnant, no doctor on earth is going to run tests to see what's wrong with him. Because they already know it's that he's a male, and there's only male and female, those who can get pregnant and those who can't. So, that's it.
And this is where the whole thing gets locked shut. Matt Walsh reaches for an analogy, and it's a strong one. He points to the plain fact that human beings have two legs. Matt Walsh said this. Human beings have two legs. Now follow the logic, because this is the part that blows my mind. If someone is born with one leg or loses one in an accident, nobody suddenly declares that the number of legs a human has is a total mystery, or that legs exist on some endless scale where a person might have 100 of them. We know something went wrong. We know what was supposed to be there. The norm does not vanish just because an exception exists. And he applies that exact reasoning to the earlier point. Matt Walsh said this: "A woman by her nature can get pregnant, a man by his nature never can. So when a woman can't conceive, a doctor goes looking for what went wrong, because that capacity is supposed to be there. But no doctor on earth investigates why a biological male can't carry a child, because there's nothing to investigate." That right there is the entire case, sealed. And here's something genuinely worth knowing, because Matt uses a phrase with real history behind it. Matt Walsh said this: "The exception that proves the rule." A lot of people throw that line around and assume it means an exception somehow makes a rule true, which never made any sense. But it traces back to an old Latin legal principle, exceptio probat regulum. And the original meaning is that the very existence of a stated exception implies there's a general rule it's carved out from. You only bother naming an exception because the rule is real. That is exactly what's happening here. The woman who can't conceive isn't evidence the category is fake. She's evidence the category exists because we instantly recognize her as the exception to it. Then Matt lands the final line clean. Matt Walsh said this: "There's only male and female, those who can get pregnant and those who can't." After all the talk about spectrums and complexity, the conversation ends right back at the simplest truth in the room. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.